I think we're kind of complete now, and the time is 11:30, so I suggest we are just going to start. I'll do a short introduction for the people that are watching. This group came together after Holland Contact and PropTech, one of our companies, organized the Smart Sensor Challenge, which was with 20 Dutch real estate companies and municipalities like Amsterdam, Rotterdam, to find the smartest sensors for living, working, all kinds of things. Well, we got a very nice bunch of people from all over the place together. And I would like to give you guys the word. So I'm just going to start with who's next to me. I'm going to name your name, mention your name, and then I would like to introduce yourself and the company that you work for. So the first in line is Pale, if I pronounce it right.
That's very good. Yeah. Thank you very much. My name is Paladin, and I'm a few words about the company. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ubiquitous. So we're a 4-year-old startup company. We're all about adding visual intelligence to building. So obviously right now is occupancy, understanding where people are and when they're there. I think for more of the companies in this session, this has become even more important after COVID-19, also being able to understand social distancing. So of course, like I assume a lot of my colleagues here, we've developed a solution for that as well. But for us, occupancy is just the beginning. We are developing a very versatile platform to understand also how people interact and how they interact with things, to build a more complete understanding about what people do in buildings, because we have to remember that buildings should be for the people that use them, and so we want to take a very user-centric approach to building management.
Thanks a lot. Then I will move on to Raquel.
Yes, so I'm Raquel. I'm the channel sales manager at Pressac. We are a British designer and manufacturer of sensors for smart building applications. So we make sensors to monitor different things, from energy consumption all the way to space utilization, which is obviously what we will discuss a little bit more about today, but also environmental conditions. So our sensors are wireless and low power, so they can be retrofitted to existing buildings without too much hassle. And we are also software agnostic, so that means that you can integrate the sensor data with pretty much any software platform out there. And our goal is to make buildings more sustainable, but also provide a better experience to the users.
Perfect. Thanks for your introduction. Roy?
So hi, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. So my name is Roy Peled. I'm VP of Global Sales and Business Development at PointGrab. Been with PointGrab for roughly 4 years, since we pretty much started venturing out into the market commercially. PointGrab has been active in the computer vision and deep learning algorithm world for the last 12 or 13 years, but in our current shape and form and our current product, we've started development about 8 years ago. And like I mentioned, roughly 4 years ago, we started venturing out into the market, covering currently globally on a global scale. We have around 25,000 sensors deployed worldwide, with a bunch of customers ranging from banks and financial institutions to consultancy firms to universities, food and beverage companies, pharmaceutical companies. And what we see in the market is a very large appetite to, first of all, understand what is actually happening in the building, what is the utilization, how resources in the building are actually being used. And then it's a very natural shift to real-time applications around providing availability of workstations and desks to employees, to increasing productivity around meeting rooms and collaboration spaces, automation of facility management with regards to restrooms and cafeterias and other public areas. And of course, all of this data can then be collected and also used as a tool or as a consulting tool for other companies in the same industry to see how their colleagues or how the competitors are actually behaving or using their buildings. And certainly from our perspective, COVID-19 has been an interesting time, to say the least, for everyone. But having said that, we use the capabilities within the platform in order to provide the necessary data to apply social distancing use cases for some of our application partners. And we're actually running several deployments and pilots with regards to social distancing use cases. Having said that, we see it as a short-term, more of a short-term use case, and at the end of the day, things will get back to some kind of normality, and then you are back to the longer-term use cases where this is the bread and butter, basically.
Thank you. Maarten, Spacewell.
Good morning. My name is Maarten Vink. I'm development manager, business development manager at Spacewell. We have different kind of software products, but I will mostly discuss today our smart building platform, Kubundu. Kubundu is actually a hardware agnostic platform. So amongst others, we work together with PointGrab, and we aggregate data from different sources in the building, being either sensor data or building management system data, for example, with the goal to enhance the performance of the building in terms of space efficiency, user experience, and services that can be provided inside of a building.
Thank you very much. And Eric?
Yes, thanks. We are Disruptive Technologies. I'm the founder and now president of Disruptive Technologies. And we have spent 5 years to build the whole technology behind the world's smallest wireless sensor. It's always on. It's the size of a postage stamp, and it has a battery lifetime of 15 years. And so you can connect with this on an API. So we have 70,000 sensors in the field, in pilots and trials, and starting to move that into operations now with facility management as one of the main applications. But another application that we're focusing heavily on is the heavily industrial vertical in utilities, so monitoring substations and these kind of things. We currently have touch, temperature, proximity, water, and humidity, and each sensor represents one use case, so you don't need any configuration or anything. On the API as well, it knows what it is, and there is no pairing, no passwords. All the sensors talk to all the gateways in the world from competitors and everyone, so we're building a network. And we're rolling out new sensors next year. Our position is to deliver raw data on API. That's our main position. But in some applications, we're providing a simple dashboard just to have a sales tool. But what we really are working on is integrating with partners. So we know Spacewell or MCS from before, but to be honest, we were 1.5 years delayed. Building the manufacturing line was a massive challenge for us. But now we're back, I would say, and it works really well. And there's a lot of interest. We're launching in the US this spring, despite the situation. So and it seemed to be a good kind of time to be back as well. Occupancy is also one of the things that we see a lot of interest around now. Also, asset tracking and digital retrofit is of assets, where you want to have real-time insights to your assets after they're installed. That's one of the main applications that we have. But it's all from very simple use cases, I would say, like counting how many times the toilet door is open and closed, and then base work order routines on that, to like machine monitoring in industrial environments. So that's us. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I think we also got your stamp sensor here in our office. So I recognize it, as well as, of course, last but not least, Bastiaan's lights and sensors are also here. So Bastiaan, please tell us a little bit more about you and your company.
Yes, so I'm the co-founder and CEO of IMG. What we do is we use the lighting to deploy a sensor of an IoT infrastructure in the building. So we solve the issue of how to get your hardware deployed, and we remove the cost of the hardware deployment, because that's paid from your lighting budget. So our lighting is no more expensive than your standard lighting, but yet provides you the full backbone for your lighting. So we can obviously get occupancy data from every room in your building, from the lighting sensors. but we can also provide you with indoor navigation capabilities, because all our light points operate as iBeacons. We can do asset tracking, so you can put tags on objects and we can localize them with 5-meter precision anywhere in your building. But we can also use the backbone to connect additional sensors in a very cost-efficient way, and even removing the need for batteries at all in the sensors. So we have a lot of solar-powered sensors, for example, that use so minimum amount of radio because they only need to sense their first light. They only need to sense their sensor data to the first luminaire, and from there we move it on. I think similar to disruptive technologies, we also focus purely on providing an API with the data, which then is integrated into platforms like Spacewell. We don't make the additional sensors ourselves, so we also partner with a wide range of sensor manufacturers that make sensors that operate on our backbone. And yeah, and our solution is also active in the PropTech Contact Clubhouse.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Bastiaan, for your introduction. I see that we have around 16 viewers, and I would motivate them to, if you have a question for one of those people, please type them in. In the meanwhile, I'll continue with some questions that I have for you guys and that we can maybe have a discussion on. We live in a very interesting time, I think, now with Corona. There's a lot of things going bad because of that, but also a lot of opportunities. Can you guys maybe tell a little bit more on how you use Corona to, it has an effect on workplaces and the use of it. So could you maybe tell us a little bit more on how you guys deal with that?
Certainly. So if I can start, then from our perspective, the way that we are working with our application partners and customers is to leverage the data that is already available within the system in order to enable what we call social distancing use cases. This comes in different shapes and forms. We've added recently the capability to very accurately provide the XY coordinates of the people that we monitor. And that allows third-party applications like Spacewell in this case to enable different social distancing use cases. For example, if I provide the XY coordinates of 2 people, it's very easy to calculate the distance between them. Or if you combine the location information with the count data, then you can get a kind of what we call a density parameter into a group of people within a meeting room. So it might be that 5 people within a meeting room is okay from social distancing regulations, but if all of those 5 people are concentrated in one corner of the room, obviously that's not okay. So you need a kind of 2-layered approach to the whole social distancing issues or use cases. But as I said in the introduction, the way that we look at it is as a kind of a short-term use case. In a lot of cases, people have not yet gone back to the office. So if I look at all of you, I would guess that most of you are at home yet, working from home. In our case, we were one of the earlier countries to go into lockdown. So we are back in the office, but we are actually kind of experiencing now a second wave. So numbers are increasing here. So it might be a case that we will be back working from home again. But at least my approach is that once medication or a vaccine is available, then obviously there is not much point in keeping on working from home. There might be some change in the kind of normalization, or it will be a kind of, I wouldn't call it a new normal, but a fine-tuned normal. At the end of the day, people will get back to the office because from a social perspective, from a psychological perspective, people prefer to separate their home life from their work life. So people will get back to the office. And actually, the way that we see it is that this period is a kind of trigger to push organizations, to push corporates to a more flexible, agile working environment, to allow them to manage this current social distancing, but maybe fine-tune working environment to their employees, and also prove to their employees that they can provide them a healthy and safe workplace moving forwards. So it's actually it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
if you'll allow me, let me just counter some of what you said. I think we will see permanent changes to the way we work. I think that a lot of people have discovered that working at least partly from home can be very efficient. I think all of us will want to come to the office, you know, but not maybe 100%. But I think it's good news for all of us here because it will require more sensing data.
I think building on that,
it will be a trigger to.
I think building on that, I think we see the same use cases, but we also see a short term, which is compliance on social distancing. I think besides those use cases, what we add is support with contact tracing. So because we can have the tags that we normally track equipment, we're now using them to track people, so we can see if people stay within a bubble. We can help compartmentalize parts of the company so that if there is an outbreak, you have a reduced risk of your whole company going in shutdown. But we also see an increased demand for more longer term use cases, which is, hey, we now want to understand what is the long-term impact of Corona and the change of behavior. Is there a significant change in the use of our real estate, and should we adjust our real estate? And we believe that that is a more longer term and sustainable use case than.
Question. I've seen that we have a lot of demand for the desk occupancy sensors because facilities managers, they are looking at how much space do they actually need now that people are working more and more from home. And they need to understand, you know, how much space, but also they have to understand which spaces are used more or less and why. And by using the data from the sensors, they can then make informed decisions about, you know, how are they going to plan ahead and decide what space they keep and what space they have to dispose of. And the occupancy data is mega important because, for example, let's say that there is a meeting room that has been booked, but actually when you go and pop in, there's actually nobody there. So, you know, that tells you that there is a lot to monitor real-time data, because otherwise, how do you know if those rooms are actually being used, and how do you know that your space is being as utilized as best as possible?
I saw an interesting question in the chat from Tanaka.
Yeah.
So one of the things we do is if we have, I mean, to be very clear, we haven't deployed this with any customers, but we have had a lot of interesting discussions around it. Is we have the tags that we use to normally track equipment. They also have a buzzer, so we can also give people warnings and feedback through that buzzer. So we can say, hey, you're currently, for example, you know, you compartmentalize your department and you say, you know, finance should only meet with finance and you shouldn't have meetings with other departments. So we can buzz if you're meeting somebody from a department you shouldn't be meeting it, or if we see that too many tags are in a particular room, we can give a buzz to all the tags in that room. So that way we can also give feedback.
It's also possible to.
I think that the value that we can add with sensors is also to over time identify hotspots and, you know, patterns of undesirable behavior, because none of the sensor providers here, I think, are able to actually physically force people apart. That's not what a sensor do, but I think we can understand, you know, behaviors of or patterns of undesirable behavior. I think,
and also give a dashboard, right? So one of the dashboards we've trialed with customers is, you know, can we find the metrics of interdepartmental contact, and we give that a number, and we can show on a daily basis to the management team on the screen how this compartmentalization of their company is working in the grand scheme of things. And then you can do A/B testing. You can, I don't know, try different signs. And I mean, I think Raquel, you're more a designer, so I think this is for your area. But you can try all kinds of different human interactions to improve it, and then do A/B testing on these different measures and see how that measure of compartmentalization is being effective.
Yeah,
Martin,
the moment.
Sorry,
I was going to say, at the moment where the partners we're working on, the software partners, what they do is block out desks. So you will have the sensors on each desk, but what you do is block out desks so that you can keep the social distance between them. So that's something that we've been doing so far. But obviously, as Bastian is saying, there are different ways where you can implement that. You can't control what people do, but you can put some technology in place to at least not enforce, but promote a good utilization of the area.
And based on the workspaces that you can block, you can also, we have like the small meeting room displays that you can put on a desk. You can send signals to it if the social distance regulations are being violated, that you get like a buzzer on that tag, so you don't have to give everybody a personal tag, but you can just indicate it over there. Or you can send a message in the application, and that you say, okay, in this zone too many people are there, please can you either don't go there or remove yourself if you are there. So you can give feedback to people to tell them you are in a situation which is not according to the current regulations that apply at the office.
This is what we see as well. Our sensors go into occupancy and installed under desks and on chairs and unintrusive. But platforms are using sensors not only from us but from other providers as well, video and so on, to understand what's going on in the environment. I think it's the at least interest that we see now is a short-term wave that is going on. But I'm sure that there will be some more interest into digging into the data and also find new use cases because the technology is already deployed. We see that meeting rooms, as was giving an example here as well, there are separate platforms connected to video systems that are rerouting and making sure that the meeting rooms are actually used or freed up. So there's all kind of these things I think would come in a wake of these sensor deployments. And just for us, just very, I would say, happy to be part of this this wave now.
So what we see actually in the deployments in our case, where it's centered around social distancing, is there are different methods that customers use. It starts from digital signage screens that are rolled out across the open spaces and meeting rooms, like Martin mentioned. It can one customer is actually using the speaker system within the floor to warn in case something is happening, although I don't think that's a popular way to do it. In other cases, they use LED lights near the table in zones to warn in case within 2 or 3 minutes there was an issue with social distancing. I think it's still a learning curve for everyone. So not everyone knows exactly how, first of all, how to behave, how it will work moving forwards. But I think it's more of a way of getting used to it in the short term. And at the end of the day, again, once there is a vaccine or a medication, things will fine-tune to the best way to get people back to work.
Does somebody else still wants to add up to something? I heard Bastian laughing.
Did I? No, I think if you, I can add to. So I think the point was that Rahul made was very good. That we don't know, and in this phase there is a lot of experimentation. Right? I mean, this is unknown territory, and I think the great thing about the sensor technology is that it helps you to actually be data driven about your experimentation, whether it's about how to best use your new office or the best layout for your office, or on how to warn and enforce social distancing. I mean, the sensor technology gives you the means to validate that whatever you're doing is actually the right thing. And I think that's the best way to look at it, what we are seeing with our customers right now.
I think that's a kind of a very good wrap up, unless you guys want to still stay in this session. I believe it takes until 5 minutes to 12, which is now. I have to move into some other sessions, but feel free to stay in here and discuss the matter a little bit more.
I just remembered why I laughed. It was when Raoul said through the speaker, I just had this visual in front of me, like, you are not 2 meters.
That's the way that it pretty much works, and it's bad. It's not the way to go.
Yes.
So if you guys, for now, I want to thank you very much for this session. Like I said, I have some other stuff to do here in the clubhouse itself. Thanks very much, and I hope you have enjoyed Real Estate Futureproof until now. If you will go and meet some other people today, have fun, enjoy, and I hope it was meaningful for you guys to have this online meeting.
Excellent.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.